Today, I'm excited to be joined by one of my inner circle members, Liam Stone. Liam is an electrical contractor based in Yorkshire who's made some terrible mistakes when it comes to the commercial and the contracting side of his business. Liam grew his business to employing 30 members of staff, turning over millions of pounds, but unfortunately, that business went into liquidation by somebody not paying him for a massive job he'd undertaken. Fast forward to today, and Liam's completely transformed his business and his life, and is a property developer with a property portfolio into the millions of pounds. And in today's episode, I want to explore how he's gone from a busy fool electrician to a full-time property developer, building generational wealth for him and his family. So Liam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on your show, Craig. I look forward to sharing my journey, where I've come and where I'm going.
Amazing. Well, listen, thank you for joining me, Liam. So let's kick off by you just making a brief introduction to yourself and your business.
So, Liam Stone, electrician by trade, come property investor, and now property mentor, where I help other people follow their property dreams.
Brilliant. All right. So, Liam, on these episodes, what I like to do is share the journey, the raw journey from where you started to where you are now, because your journey is not only motivational, but it's inspiring. And I believe that it's going to inspire other tradespeople to maybe get into property game like you have. Because let's face it, every tradesperson at some point has thought of going into property.
Yeah.
So if we start at the beginning, right, way back, why did you go self-employed to start off with?
Always wanted to be self-employed, to be honest with you, from a young age. So as I was coming out my time before I qualified, I was running my own jobs, and I just thought, I can do this on my own. We got offered a contract, subcontracting. So me and somebody else took that opportunity and just went from there, left where we were working and went subcontracting. From there, obviously, we set up kind of together, both self-employed, but working together, doing subcontracting, his own little domestic jobs, and just from there, to be fair. So that's how it all started, I think, back in 2006, 2007, where I went self-employed.
Right, okay. So back then, you and your mates come together, gone self-employed. What types of jobs were you doing? Were it domestic? Were it commercial?
So the subcontract work was mainly commercial. My background's like retail electrics, refrigeration electrics. So we had a contract testing Morrison's. So we were testing all the refrigeration in Morrison's on that. And then we were doing domestic rewires, fuse boards, anything like that in between. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag, to be fair.
All right. So when did your business really start to take off? Because if there's two here now, obviously in them early years, I know you started to grow your business, and we'll come on to that shortly. But how did you start to grow? What started to happen? And how many people did you start to bring in working for you?
So that, it wasn't really a partnership, but just two friends working together kind of thing. But, then probably 2010, started gaining momentum, getting bigger contracts. I fell onto a really good contract where we were going into Morrison's, converting all Morrison stores into LED lighting throughout the country. Probably had 5-6 teams doing that weekly. So we're converting 5-6 teams, 5-6 Morrisons a week to LED upgrades. And yeah, it just grew from there. Probably got up to 30 staff out on site working for us at that point.
And what year would this have been then?
Looking, probably, we had a couple of years of that, and then we were doing main contractor work, so big sites, anything probably 500, 700,000 pound jobs. So we worked on Ferrybridge Power Station, new car dealerships, 60 blocks, apartment blocks up to 60 units. So some decent sized sites, to be honest with you. Like I say, 30, 35 guys working for us at that point.
I mean, that sounds great, but I can only imagine that must have been a right flipping headache for you.
Yeah, so the LED lighting were good. We earned some decent margin on that. Then, that came to a bit of an end. Then we started doing the main contractor work. Main contractor work high turnover, small volume, small margins, and you're just managing staff all the time. So it becomes a bigger headache than it's actually worth, to be fair. So yeah, not all, people say big turnover. Well, it's true, sort of profit's sanity, and turnover's vanity, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So with that then, what were some of the challenges? Because, going from just two lads jobbing from job to working on big projects for like some Morrison's and having 30 lads working for you, that must have been a flipping nightmare. A challenge. What were some of the challenges you were facing? Because you're right. Everybody thinks, oh, look at me working for Morrison's. Look at big jobs I'm doing. 200, 300 grand jobs, 30 lads working for me. Everybody must think that's the ultimate, but I know it's not because I've been there. So what were some challenges you were facing?
Cash flow, massive, to be honest with you. If you imagine, like I say, 30 guys, obviously I've got 30 guys to pay end of every week. They're earning anything up to, at the time, £1,000 a week, some probably a little bit more. So straight away, I'm probably £40,000 a week in wages every week. Then I'm getting paid 30 days end of month, sometimes 45 days end of month. So straight away, I'm a lot of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of pounds out of pocket before actually getting paid myself. Managing the staff were another one. So are the guys going to turn in on a Monday morning? Are they going to turn in on a Tuesday, whatever day it is? Obviously, Monday's the obvious one. Guys working away a lot. So again, come Friday, paying the guys on a Friday, and I'm not been getting much production out of them on a Friday, but I'm still having that cost. So yeah, just the guys, one main thing, cash flow another, getting my money from the contractors is another. Retentions, I'm working at a 10% margin, then I'm getting 5% retention taken off of me, where that's coming back to me on practical completion, another 2.5% after 12 months. So it all just hampers the cash flow.
And what were some real problems that you were having with this then? Because I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, flipping out, 30 grand a week in wages, you've got all your suppliers and all your materials to pay for. You might be invoicing, as you said, month end. Then you've got retentions, so you're not making 10%, you're down to 5% because they're holding 5% of your money. I mean, that must have been an incredibly stressful time for you.
I think you end up just going down a bit of a rabbit hole, don't you? So it becomes the normal, doesn't it? You start small and you're just growing and growing and growing, and before you know it, you've got a big beast, and that big beast needs feeding, doesn't it? So yeah, it's
So,
hard.
so these challenges, I mean, how for you personally, from a mental health point of view, if anything, I mean, I know what it felt like for me back then, but most of mine, when I were up to sort of like 20, 25 lads, it were more domestic. So my cash flow, although it weren't brilliant, I weren't having to wait 6 days to get paid.
Yeah.
What other challenges did that bring? Because I know from a relationship point of view at home, it had a massive negative effect on my relationship at home because we got no money. We were always stressed. I couldn't sleep at night. I was worried to death. So what
Yeah.
were going off behind the scenes from a personal point of view?
My wife's supportive, to be honest with you. So, she just lets me kind of get on with it. She doesn't really pester me for anything. She understands. But yeah, obviously, time with my wife, my family. I had a little girl at the time. Obviously, she'd just been born. So it was hard spending the time with my family because obviously I need to be very active on that business to make sure that we are getting paid, overcoming problems, making sure that jobs are done on time. Because the other thing is, if it's not done on time, I think some of them jobs had like 10, £15,000 penalties every week if it went over. So, covering his ass basically if it was going to go over, to make sure that reason why it went over, we could deflect that away from us and show why it were actually going over and it wasn't our fault. But yeah, relationship wise, not too bad. Obviously, didn't spend much time with the family, which is bad. But sleepless nights, yeah, just fully stressed all the time. Couldn't go away. I think the most I went away maybe for a week. It'd always be, we'd be booking 1-2 weeks in advance because I could never commit saying, right, 6 months' time, we can go away. It would be in and around sort of my availability when I thought, right, yeah, I can squeeze a holiday in that week or something like that. So, yeah, not great. But yeah, I've got a supportive wife, luckily, so that does help massively.
Yeah. I mean, and what a contrast. You've just mentioned holidays because, we talked, I approached you about coming on this podcast and you said, I can't because I'm going to Florida for 3 weeks. You've just come back from Florida, haven't you?
Yeah. So I wouldn't have been able to do that, no chance, before. Most I've taken off before, to be honest with you. I think I had 16, 17 days for my honeymoon. And even that were uncomfortable for me, should we say. Obviously, I enjoyed it, but, that fear of going away for 16, 17 days is massive. As in, this time, I've literally turned my phone off and, I've been on my laptop probably 6 hours in 3 weeks. So, massive difference.
Yeah. Okay. So anybody watching or listening to this now then who's got this dream of having a big business, 30 lads working for him, millions of pounds worth of turnover, doing big jobs, working all over the country, doing all these big jobs. If you could give them one bit of advice, bearing in mind you've been through that, what bit of advice would you give them for people that have got that vision of creating what you had?
So you need to be cautious, be careful who you work with. Obviously, there's a lot of main contractors out there working on small margins, so they might not intentionally not pay you, but yeah, some of them are working on 2-3%. So be cautious who you work with, be selective. Bigger's not always better. Make sure you're working to a decent margin. If that margin's not there, then I just wouldn't bother taking the job on. It's not worth it. Getting a load of guys employed as well, you become, you feel like you have to be getting the work constantly to pay their wages, where it's just wrong. Obviously, you create a business, go self-employed to create a better life for yourself, not become sort of a prisoner to your business, should I say?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll walk us through then, because this is up to, you said about 2015 now, and you're up to all these lads.
Yeah.
But something significant happened, didn't it, during this time that proper scuppered everything. So
Yeah.
are you happy to share what that was?
So we were on a big site in the south, big apartment block it was. I was doing plumbing and electrics at the time. We had something went wrong with the plumbing, where they ended up not paying us £100,000. Other contractors got wind of it. Obviously, even though we were insured, as insurance would have taken care of that. I think they maybe made £20,000-30,000 worth of damage because we had a leak. As insurance would have taken care of that. They owed us £100,000 at the time. Other contractors became aware of this, that we were struggling financially, and then the knock-on effect were just significant. Obviously, in our contracts that we sign, if we go out of business, legally they don't have to pay us because it's in the contract. So everyone were playing to that. And I think in total, we had about £250,000 worth of payments not come to us in a space of 2-3 months. And it just absolutely wiped us out. And unfortunately, I had to liquidate that business, lay all the guys off. It's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do. But yeah, it just the ball were out of my court and we had to do it. On top of that, I had £100,000 worth of personal debt, obviously not personal debt, but debt in the business that I personally took care of. So, you see all these people sort of liquidating the businesses and you think, they're all coming out sunshine and roses. Unfortunately, wasn't for me. Hardest time of my life. Paid 100,000 of the debt off personally, so which more or less covered all of us debt. But yeah, I couldn't keep going forward, unfortunately. And yeah, difficult, probably 18, 24 months for me, to a point where I was going for job interviews. I just thought, enough's enough now. I've had enough of this. I got offered 2 jobs. I think one were £55,000 a year, the other 60,000 a year. Spoke to my wife and, we're just like, hold on, Joe, I've been self-employed now over 10 years. Could I really go back and work for somebody? No. But did I want to create this big beast again? No. So, we started again, just me and sort of one other person, back to bare roots, to be honest with you, and just living life a little bit more on my terms, sort of having the time and giving me a little bit of time to reflect on everything.
Wow. I mean, when you start to break this down, let's break this down, right? So you said that you'd moved into the plumbing side,
Yep.
right? Is this more like mechanical engineering, M&C work, or is it just?
Yes. So we're doing M&D. So a lot of the contracts we were doing, they wanted a combined package, an M&D. So we started offering that M&D service. I got a mechanical project manager on board. Probably a wrong decision at the time, that person, but we just went with it. I got another mechanical project manager on board later down the line who were really good, but it was probably a little bit too late to save it for the quality checks. Obviously, I'm not a plumber mechanical guy, so that side did let us down, unfortunately. But we live and learn, don't we? Obviously, failure's not final, is it? Obviously, we learn from it and we go again.
But just walk us through it then. So you've had this leak, yeah,
Yep.
and this has cost you an 100 grand payment. They're not paying you 100 grand because of this leak. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then vultures started to swarm because they got caught wind that you're in a bit of difficulty.
Yep.
So is it a case of actually purposely not paying you to send you under on purpose so they don't have to pay you and they can keep the money? Is that how you think it's worked?
I'd say that, whether I'm being a little bit skeptical or not, but yeah, I'd say that. Obviously, them contracts are geared that once you go out of business, then no one can touch that. It's in the contract, obviously, that the money's sort of void once you go out of business. So, yeah, I would say that. I think there's a lot of contracts out there that go around like that. Obviously, early days, we were earning decent margin, and I created a beast. And going back to what I said, you create a beast and then you got to feed that beast every week. So I started taking work on smaller margin just to feed the beast. So I couldn't sustain it, as in probably earlier days, I would have been able to sustain that.
Yeah. And you know what? That is the typical, feeding the beast, as we all call it. That is the typical growth of a business that, in my opinion, one, they don't understand the numbers in the business.
Yeah.
Two, they've got no systems running the business. So a lot of the times the business owner is trying to feed the beast, but keep the beast running himself or herself because they ain't got the systems. And three, bringing in the wrong team members, because as we know, the only reason why we bring a team in is to, one, make us more profit, and two, to save us time. So would you say that you'd made any of them mistakes yourself at this point? I know we can lay the blame at
Yeah.
we can lay the blame at people not paying you, but as a business growing, how much did you understand the numbers? How much did you have the systems in place? How were you employing the right team? How were you looking at your overheads to make sure your overheads weren't crippling your business?
Yeah, I think you've hit nails on the head there, to be honest with you. So yeah, I probably numbers is probably a decent, strong part of my knowledge, to be fair. So yeah, I think numbers wise, I were all right. But yeah, hiring people just because I needed to hire people, rushing into that hire decision, probably not the right systems early on. Like I say, I've gone from an electrician to all of a sudden probably, you know, £2 million business in a relatively small time. I always say to everybody, any business of mine, ultimately, I hold responsibility for everything because I've hired that person. So it's on me. I've done something, or ultimately, I have to hold responsibility for everything. So it's not pointing the blame. The plumber who didn't tighten, sort of, or well, he missed an olive off. To be fair, that's what he did. But we should have had the right quality checks in place. That couldn't have happened. We didn't. So systems again. But yeah, ultimately, as a business owner, regardless of what happens, you have to hold responsibility. Hold your hands up and say, well, hold on. Yeah, it's on me, this. Whether you've hired the wrong person or not been on check with your cash flow, whatever it might be, ultimately, yeah, you have to bear responsibility, hold your hands up and just take it on the chin, don't you?
Yeah. And you know what? This comes back to that saying, which we will come on to this because I know this is something that you took away from joining in a circle. I talk about risk. Everything has got to as an element of risk.
Mm.
And for me, if the risk is not worth the reward, I don't do it, right? I calculate everything via risk. And when I look at what, I mean, I'm going back 25, maybe even 30 years ago, when I was doing a little bit of commercial work, or even back then, I got out of it pretty quick for all these reasons. And the reasons for me back then was the reward. All right, it's nice people dangling carrot.
Yeah,
Oh, come and do this next big job. We're working in Glasgow, London, Birmingham, Manchester. Oh, look at us all over the country. Dangling carrot. But when we looked at it, I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm having to bankroll and cash flow somebody else's business in the fact that I'm paying all wages, I'm paying all materials, I'm not getting paid for the best part of 60 days. The margins on them are so small, and I'm laid in bed at night, me not being able to sleep because I've got someone owing me 150 grand.
yeah,
And I couldn't sleep. I just could not sleep. At the back of my mind, I'm going, well, what happens if they come up with an excuse not to pay me? And that sounds to me like it's exactly the way in which it played out with you.
yeah, definitely.
So this commercial larky, I'm not saying to people don't do it, because clearly there are people out there that are doing it and doing very well out of it. But for me, the lessons to be learned is if you've not got top side of your numbers and you've not got the right systems and the right staff in place, and you're winging it basically in your business, and you just think, oh, just because I'm getting all these big contracts coming in, I'm growing my business. They're not. They're not growing the business.
No.
All they're going to end up with is cash flow problems and headaches. So with that, you mentioned that for 18 months, I think you said it's something like the worst time I've had in business over them 18 months. It proper put you through the mill.
Yeah,
So
it just
how
makes you
did
question
it make
everything,
you
doesn't it?
feel?
Just makes you question everything, doesn't it? Hold on, I've gone from, like I say, a time where I've been making decent money as well, obviously, and then down into not making so good a margin, and then from the previous years, obviously, I'm kind of living on the profit I've made in previous years, kind of thing. But you don't see it, and it's dwindling down. Using that to cash flow these bigger main contractor jobs where I'm making sort of 10%, taking retention, and you're only ever going to make any money doing that sort of work when you stop, because every month the payment coming in is just feeding your cash flow. But yeah, them 2 years, 18 months, 2 years, like I say, just made me question, or is this worth it? Do I want to be doing this again? And that's like I say, I got offered 2 jobs, went for job interviews, got offered 2 jobs, decent salaries as well. But is that what I wanted to do? Obviously, going back to when I was an apprentice, when I always wanted to be self-employed, do my own thing. I had a little bit of freedom, kind of thing, not much, but I was sat in a job interview, and the guy interviewing me, he was telling me about how he'd got somebody in because I think they'd gone home half an hour early or something, and I just thought, hold on, is that what I want to be doing? And no, it wasn't. So we dusted himself off a little bit. Went again, I went back doing sort of small jobs, rewires, just one other guy with me, and just went from there. I had more time and probably a decent couple of years where, I was getting home at a decent time, wasn't leaving at stupid o'clock either, and earning a decent margin, just doing my own thing.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on that then, because that sort of like comes to the next part of your journey. So, it's gone under. You've had a tough time. You've reset back up, just you and somebody else, just
Yeah.
doing domestic work. So, what were the vision at that point then? Were it just a case of, look, just dust yourself back down, just get back working for yourself and see where it goes? How did all that materialize?
Yeah, so basically at that point I was thinking, hold on, I had a few properties in the background, and I was thinking, just keep doing that, buy maybe one property every year, every couple of years, keep doing this work here as well, doing a rewire every week, every couple of weeks, doing bits and bats, probably making a couple of grand a week doing that. And then all of a sudden, old contacts or other people kind of started coming back to me, realizing that I was kind of back in the game a little bit, saying, "Oh, I've got this job. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?" And taking small little jobs on. Little office refurb, couple of weeks here, couple of weeks there, subcontracting again, and we're earning decent margin, going out doing the work again, and we started going back down a bit of a growth spin where I was growing again. Probably had 3-4 guys at that point, and I'll probably living quite reasonable again. Let's say first time in probably 3 years, turned a corner, coming out of the other side, and then I think I reached out to yourself then because I didn't want to go down the same rabbit hole I went down before. So I thought, well, hold on, John, I need some systems. I need to know how to hire the right people and things like that. So I reached out to yourself or Inner Circle.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move on to Inner Circle, then, so I'm just picking up on a few things you've just mentioned. You said that you'd already got a few properties. So this must have been, I mean, you joined my Inner Circle 2020, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what year were this? So is it around 2017-ish then that you'd reset back up again? And if you had, how many properties did you have at that point?
Yeah, so reset back up 2017. I don't know exact dates, but around 2017. At that, I started buying properties in 2006. So first property in 2006, bought it to sell it on, and we had the credit crunch at that point, so I didn't end up selling it. I ended up holding it, and then started buying properties again around 2012, 2013. At that 2017, I probably got up to 7 or 8 properties, and then I bought another couple before 2020, before obviously joining Inner Circle. So I think when I joined Inner Circle, probably up to about 20 properties at that point.
Right.
No,
Okay.
10, sorry,
Right.
10, not 20.
10. Yeah.
10.
All right. So you'd already, basically at this point, you'd already dipped your toe in property development side of business then.
Yeah, it was something I enjoyed. Obviously, my skills that I had, I could utilise doing it. And yeah, I enjoyed doing it, and like I say, I were relatively good at it. I could spot a property, and make it increase in value and generate me an income from it. So yeah, I enjoyed doing it.
Brilliant. All right. So this brings us up to 2020 then, when you reached out to me, didn't you? And I think you've been to a couple of my live events, and then you reached out to me and applied to join Inner Circle. And then over that course of that year, 2020 through into 2021, on the Inner Circle, what was it that you started to learn whereby you'd made mistakes in past, you'd spotted them, but there were certain things that I taught you over that period that you then picked up and ran with? So what are some of the most important areas of business and marketing that you learnt from me on the Inner Circle? Because this played a massive part in actually the shift into becoming a full-time property developer, didn't it? So what did you learn?
I think the biggest thing I took away from sort of your Inner Circle was, you always preach about, the quickest, easiest, most risk-free way to make money. And I just thought, hold on, I'm back up to 3, 4, 5 guys, whatever I was up to at the time. I'd been down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I could kind of quickly see that rabbit hole opening up and me going back down it. And I was thinking, well, quickest, easiest, most risk-free way of making money. It's definitely not quick. It's not easy, and it's not risk-free. So that was massive for me. Obviously, you taught us how to hire. I hired a few people from you, using your technique. And yeah, they're some good hires, to be honest with you. They've left us now, and they've gone on to bigger things, unfortunately. But, they were great people for us. So, and I wasn't using them techniques before. We just, getting people in, having a quick conversation with them, thinking, yeah, they've got this, that, and whatever else. And they seem like a decent person. As in, for me, attitude's massive. If someone's got the right attitude, then you can teach somebody, you can train them up. But we're hiring on, right, they're qualified to do this. Yeah, like I say, they seem decent. We'll hire them. Not, yeah, have they got the right attitude? Are they going to benefit our business? Are they going to bring morale up? And we're hiring people who are bringing it down, not taking it up, unfortunately. But at the time, I didn't know that. So yeah, hiring people, using your techniques to hire people, and like massive way, quickest, easiest, risk-free way of making money. And contracting, yeah, it's none of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it's it. You know, we go back to what we were just saying then about what I said previously about, you know, there's only two reasons why anyone should employ any member of staff, sub or employed, and that is one, to make them more money, and two, to save them more time. But in reality, I'm not saying every employee or every sub-A is guilty of sapping your time and losing your money. But there's a lot of business owners out there right now that have got staff or subbies, and they feel as though because of the amount of work that they've got on at the minute and the lack of skilled labour out there that there is, it's like they're almost forcing themselves to keep bad members of staff because they've took too much work on, and if they get rid of them, it's like, well, who's going to do work? Because I can't find anybody else.
Yeah.
So making sure we have the right staff and the right team and building that team moving forward is absolutely vital for anyone that's got a growing business. But what about mindset as well? Because there were a big mindset shift in you as well, weren't there, on Inner Circle?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you're big on mindset, to be fair. So I took that on board, something I wasn't really on board with previously. But yeah, obviously I started listening to audio books, motivational things, go to the gym, things like that. And it does have a massive impact as well. So it just lifts you up, and you feel fired up. You feel like you can take on the world and do everything, can't you? So, you're not, if you're just going through a bit of a null, lull, and everything's negative, all of a sudden, you just absolutely bogged down with it, and you don't want to be getting out of bed. But mindset, if you're listening to correct people, then it's going to lift you up. And if you are going through a bit of a lull, then you feel like you can take it on and overcome it.
Yeah. And do you know something else as well? Just come back to me. I remember you on Inner Circle when I was saying to you, because we do 5 full months of marketing on Inner Circle.
Yeah.
And I remember you say me banging drum, as I always do, about doing videos. Videos are the single most powerful form of marketing known to mankind. And if we can combine videos with social media, and we can start to set ourselves apart from all this competition, then we'll start to generate more leads. And I remember saying to you, right, we're going to get doing videos. And you're like, I ain't shooting no videos. I don't really like social media. So talk to me about the importance now in both businesses, your electrical business and your property business. Just talk to us about the importance of becoming a content creator, creating videos and getting your marketing right, because you've nailed it.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, I want one for social media, as you've just pointed out there. Videos definitely want. I mean, I went back to some of my early videos, and you're just like, oh God, really? But absolutely massive. You scroll back on my Facebook if you want to spend probably long enough scrolling back, but you'll see prior to 2020, there's nothing on there. There might be an odd holiday picture or something, or but there ain't much on there whatsoever. But yeah, now it's fundamental to my business. Obviously, we raise finance, putting out what we're doing. We're showing every week that the credibility of what we do, and people coming to us. People with money sat in the bank who want a better return, and actually coming to invest in what we're doing. So it's absolutely massive. So yeah, that is a big thing that sort of you give me on that Inner Circle as well. At the time, you want us to do little videos, and you're thinking, you don't see the relevance of it, but it's all getting used to being in front of the camera, and just little steps, and then gets you there eventually, doesn't it? It's not, you're not climbing a mountain from at the start, but little steps will get you up there. No point taking on the world to begin with.
Yeah. And look at you now on this podcast being recorded now and confident doing it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done this before, no chance. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't have taken a selfie or a video or something. Some of my mates now are like, bloody hell, selfies, this, videos, that, and you got to the one, you got to put yourself out there. Obviously, you do get some negativity from some people, but I think anyone who puts themselves out there is going to get that. And you just, again, back to mindset. If you got the right mindset, you overcome that and you just move on. You just ignore it, get on with it.
Yeah. So throughout your journey on Inner Circle with me, then you changed as a person massively. your business started to change. You didn't end up falling into the bad habits that you dropped into before, because now you're learning how to build, grow, and scale a business the right way. Let's come back to that word risk-free, because for anybody that listens to me on a regular basis, and you've said it a number of times already on this podcast, my popular saying is, what is the quickest, easiest, risk-free way of making money for the least amount of time? And due to your, let's say, negative experience at contracting work, and obviously liquidating your business and all grief that brought you, a light bulb moment came on towards the back end of Inner Circle. And this leads us nicely, I suppose, into the property development side, because this is where full circle, your property partners and development company, were really born, and where you really pushed on. So talk to us about how you transitioned from on Inner Circle from having, I think you said, 10 properties, to making that decision. There's a quicker, easier, risk-free way of making money than doing electrical contracting work and putting yourself in all that high risk. And that, for me, is property. So just explain to us that transition.
So I had, like I say, I think we were up to 7-10 properties at that point. You know, I'd got a proven method in doing it. It was successful, and you know, I was just thinking, hold on, Joe, why do I want to put my fate, my destiny in somebody else's hands if I'm going to get paid? You know, ultimately, even if they want to pay me, Joe, they might not get paid from their client. So I'm down the food chain, if you like. In a property, I am, you know, my fate, my destiny is in my own hands. So as long as I'm buying the correct property, doing the correct work on it, then, you know, I'm increasing the value of it and I'm getting paid. And as we all know, you know, property doubles in value every 12 years or whatever it might be. So, you know, ultimately, if I'm holding them properties, I'm creating a generational wealth for my family as well. So yeah, it were a massive shift for me. And I just thought, well, hold on, why am I wanting to be messing about with electrical contracting, even though I've still got a small team, when I can be doing this, creating my own destiny and creating a lifestyle that I actually want for me and my family. So yeah, it was massive, to be honest with you. And you know, nothing's ever risk-free, but the risk were limited. You know, the risk were in my hands. I chose the risk, and you know, I did the due diligence. So I was making sure I was buying the correct properties, spending the correct amount of money on them, and adding the value to them. So yeah, the risk wasn't, you know, was still there, but it was more calculated. I were aware of it, rather than contracting. You know, you can go on company's house or do credit checks. Ultimately, they're 12 months old, so you never know the full story. As in, you know, so it were a lot reduced risk to me. So let's say contracting 70% risk, all of a sudden I'm at a 5-10% risk.
Right. So now you've taken back full control. You've looked at that quickest, easiest, risk-free way of making money. You've decided at this point you're going to go full pelt into property side. So how did that business start to grow? Because it has grown. So what were the sort of like key mechanisms and factors into you growing this as a business?
So obviously we're buying his own properties. I also started developing, renovating properties for other people, which again, you know, I took deposits like you teachers on Inner Circle, stage payments. So instead of waiting 30 days, end of month or anything like that, you know, I'd take 20% up front, and I'd, you know, project might be 8 weeks. I'd take it stage every weekly payments or 2 weekly payments. So the risk again is limited. That enabled me then to build my own team, to do my own developments. You know, and I built up a nice little pot again. And yeah, we went from there, started buying more of my own properties. I remember, you know, I'd lost a job, and to a woman. She was based in London, and basically we were out on price, and she rung me up crying, saying they'd messed up. So I think it were in between my office and where I live. So I said, don't worry about it, you know, I'll call in, have a quick look, and called in. She told me where the key safe number. I did a Zoom call with her when I was there, told her where she needs to get it sorted out with a builder. You know, I said, you know, just finish with the builder. Obviously, you don't want to lose the builder. I had no intentions of taking over or anything, but, you know, just helped her out on that. From that now, she doesn't want to be involved directly with any properties because she was stressed out, she was worried. Like I said, she rung me up in tears. She was spending every other weekend up here in Airbnbs rather than actually, living a life in London that she wanted. So from, me helping her, she's now like, well, hold on. I think she made 10, 15% on this property. So she basically now invests with us. We give her a 10% return. It's completely hands off. She don't have to worry about it. And that's the way she chose. But it all came from kind of, me helping her from it. I had no intentions, like I say, of getting anything from it. I remember my wife at the time saying, hold on, you should be charging her for your time. And I felt genuinely sorry for her because she was in the shit, to be fair. Someone messing her about, costing her thousands of pounds in delays and everything else. And, I just felt sorry for her, helped her out. And ultimately, I think you get what you give, don't you? So it came back in reaps and bounds, to be honest with you.
And is this where the sort of like the investor side of your business were born? Because I know that you now work with many investors, who put some money up and they don't have any stress or any hassle. You just give them a really good percentage back on their investment. Is this where that investor side started, and is this what actually ultimately has catapulted your business? Because we'll come on to numbers and stats in a bit, but you've significantly got more properties now. And is this through working with investors?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it was. Before that, I think she was our first investor. And, all of a sudden we're thinking, well, hold on. She approached us saying, can I work with you rather than having to buy a property myself and go through all the stress. So yeah, it was. And then at that point we started offering that out to other people. But we'd proven a method. So we had the experience of doing it. All the other time it was own money or borrowed from a bank or, a bridging company or something like that. All of a sudden we've got a proven method that actually worked and people were coming to us, seeing what we were doing and coming to us. I remember somebody else reached out to me randomly on, which I think was second or third investor, dropped me a message on Facebook saying, can we jump on a call? I've seen what you're doing, potentially looking to invest some money. I got on a call with him and I remember he was saying, how does it work? Like I said, second or third investor. So it's a different thing now, but I'm thinking, he's got 10, 20,000 pounds to invest. So we got into the nitty gritty, how it all worked. And I just said, sort of, how much have you got to invest? And he said, upwards of $500,000. And I was like, wow, and I thought,
Nice.
we've got something here. And it just significantly grew in the next few years by private investment, to be honest with you.
Amazing. So let me do my numbers then. So you said that you started around 2006 buying your first properties.
Yeah.
And then I think about 12 years later, maybe about 2018, 19-ish, you said that you got about 10.
Yeah, around 10 at that point, yeah.
So how many properties do you currently have now?
So with what's in legals and in development, 28 properties in legals,
Right.
and I think we've got a couple in legals, to be fair. But yeah, what's in legals and development. So come probably end of this week, we'll have 28.
So 28 properties then. So hang on. So 10 in 12 years. So you've done 18 properties in what, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, that's some going that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we just got a method that, a system that works. And I think that's what you need. That you need a system that works, and it helps when you enjoy doing what you do.
Yeah. So these investors then, are you still actively looking for more investors to work with you now?
Yeah, so we work with obviously current investors and new investors. Obviously, they've got to align with what we want as well. So as values have to align. There's a lot of people out there, obviously, who would chuck money at us, or people message me all the time. But if as values don't align, I'll be honest with you, I don't really entertain. I don't want that hassle, that stress of it all. So I vet everyone I work with, to be fair. But if there's values align, you know, and we work well together, then yeah, we work with more people.
Brilliant. Okay. And these properties that you've got then, because I think you've just purchased a nursery, haven't you? But what type of property investment is it that you're currently doing?
So currently, obviously, we have a mixed strategy, to be fair. So we have a cash flow strategy and we have a appreciation strategy. So as cash flow strategy, them assets might not sort of have some good appreciation over the years. So we mix it up to what we do. I'm buying freehold blocks of flats at the minute. And like I say, I've just bought a nursery that we've got in planning to convert into apartments as well. But I've got another one in legals that's just a standard buy to let. But you know, the cash flow is not great on it, but the capital appreciation is good. So I think it's, you know, you need a good mix of properties in your portfolio if you're going to build a portfolio that can give you what you want to achieve.
Yeah, so some properties that you're going to sit on for a length of time and you know that you're going to make money over 10 years on because they're going to go up in value.
Yes.
But then there's other properties that might not do that. So the buy to let, you know, making money monthly, I presume, from a buy to let is the way to go. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it depends on the area. So the flats that I'm buying, the multi-block freehold flats, you know, they might not sell as individual flats, but I'm buying cheap. Obviously, the value ups, I'm pulling money back out of them. But on a yield base, obviously, they're generating me a really good yield. I've got HMO again, generates me a really good yield as well. It might struggle selling potentially, I don't know, but that's, you know, that's how my theory is on it. As in a buy to let, you know, standard 2-3 bedroom house, they're always going to sell as long as we're buying in the right areas. Just if we need to exit out of them, we can exit out of them, and they're going to be going up in appreciation year on year. So, you know, that's a solid investment. But we're at a point where we want a good cash flow and we want some capital appreciation. So, like you said, the properties that go up in value. So it's good to have a mix, I think, in your portfolio.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. All right. So all these properties that you've got now then that you own, what's the value of your property portfolio if you're happy to share it? Because I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, you've come a long way since I coached you on In a Circle. So what's the portfolio value?
I think once we've got everything complete, so the end value GDV of what we currently own is around 5.6 million.
Wow. Okay. So
Uh,
serious money then.
yeah, we've done all right in a few years, to be fair.
Well, listen, it goes back to what I've said in it, the quickest, easiest, risk-free way of making money. And in this case, for you, £5.6 million worth of portfolio, it's property. And, you know, you've learnt by your mistakes, I suppose, that you've made
Yeah.
with the contracting side, albeit, you know, people can still make a decent living from contracting side if they get it right. But again, like you've just said, you're now in full control of your own destiny, and the money or your money is not tied up with other people in contracting who may or may not pay you. You've got full control over this £5.6 million now, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it gives us a good lifestyle as it is. You know, we've not stopped there. We keep going, but you know, it does give us a good lifestyle. Like I say, I've just come back from 3 weeks over in Florida. No way would I have been able to do that before. Not even monetary factor, but just pure time factor. So, you know, don't all boil down to money. You know, some time's a massive thing. So, you know, you need that time, don't you? Who wants to just be a slave to the business all the time? No, it's pointless.
Do you know what? You know, I'm just thinking back here to some of the things you've just said, and you know, like video side of it and marketing.
Yeah.
Every day now, the algorithm picks up your content for me, right? Every day I'm seeing you posting videos, you know, another property that you've got, another property that you've let, you know, another team that you've taken on, and all this. So for someone who didn't do videos or didn't do any type of marketing properly before, to see all the comments that come in now, Liam, how do you do it? How do you get into it? Can you help me? This is now sort of like led into you offering sort of like training and coaching now to, let's say, would-be property developers. So do you just want to go on a little bit more about what it is that you're offering and how this is all unfolding for you now?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, maybe about 18 months ago, more and more people were messaging me, asking me for advice, help, and we're jumping on quite a few calls, Zooms, whatever, every week, helping people. And it would come in the point where, unfortunately, you can't help everyone, can you? So, but a lot of people had helped me previously. So I am all about, kind of giving back. And then a couple of people I would turn them down saying, well, I don't mind paying you for this, for your time to jump on a call. So I've now started obviously coaching and helping people grow a portfolio. So I offer two different services. So one where, let's say, kind of a launch, someone who just wants to get started, a bit of education on it, maybe get the first deal done. And then another one that we say is freedom. So someone who wants to build a significant portfolio, and get the freedom that actually that gives you. So yeah, they're the two services I offer from that, and it is all from being out there, putting yourself out there. People see what you do, and then people are reaching out to you, and they're interested and want to know how you've actually done it. I were on a call completely someone else on Thursday or Friday, and he said to me, he said, I follow quite a lot of property people. He said, but there's three people who genuinely seem to be, doing what they say they're doing. And he said, you're one of them, and then two other people. And I said, okay, you kind of think you have to take a little bit of a breath back because, you just take it in your stride, don't you? Obviously, built 5.6 million, a lot of people in front of me as well. And, I aspire to be them. But you have to take a bit of a deep breath and think, well, hold on, yeah, we have actually achieved something, and now we can help others achieve what we're achieving. So yeah, they're the two services we offer. So one a launch, one where someone just wants to get started, and then one that we call freedom, where people want to scale and create that freedom.
Yeah. Do you know what? For me, property developing coaching or mentoring, it's been like for the last, I don't know, a couple of years or whatever, it's been like the new fad, the new thing, right? Now I know that you've been there, seen it and done it, right? Because I've helped coach you through this and I've watched your journey and you're sharing it with us now. But what makes you different to these other people that all of a sudden spring up? And I get it, doing what I do, Craig, you do coaching. What makes you different to everyone else? And I can rattle off what makes me different,
Yeah.
right? Results that I get, So why should someone choose yourself, Liam, over someone else that claims to be doing certain things, or what are the pitfalls that people need to look out for, perhaps, if they are going to be choosing a mentor or a coach to help work with them with property?
I'd say there's a couple of things you need from a mentor or coach. You need to make sure that they're doing what you want to do for a start. Obviously, it's quite easy for people to, make people believe they're doing what they want you to do. I've got 18 years experience in this. It's not easy, but I've got a system that works. I've got a team that works in the background, and I say it's not easy. It is becoming easy, but I love what I do. So if I love what I do, it is easy to me. I don't want to sort of blow my own trumpet a little bit, but I can't see anybody else out there that gets the results consistently that I am getting. There's no one out there that is pulling all the money out of every single deal they do. And I don't think anyone even claims to do it. I get questioned because of what I'm doing. People don't believe it. I'm quite open. I'm happy to show anybody the numbers. But yeah, I'd consistently pull my money out of every deal I do, and we touched on that. Obviously, I've had some significant growth, but go back to the risk that I said. I could have had bigger growth, but I calculate the risk. These people leaving 10, 20, 30,000 pound in deals, they're borrowing money off other people, they're leaving it in. To me, that's a massive Ponzi scheme. As in, I'm getting my money out, I'm paying my investors back, and I'm building my portfolio as well as giving my investors a great return. And now, I'm helping other people do that. But again, I don't help and work with loads of people. I work with a few people, again, who align with my values. So if I want, if I'm thinking, well, hold on, this person's going to rip somebody off, learn how to raise finance, and then all of a sudden raise finance and rip, that ain't the sort of person I want to work with. The other people, I don't, someone who has unrealistic growth targets, I don't want to work with them, because my reputation is worth more to me than someone saying, well, hold on, I thought I could do this. So I'm straight up with everybody, and if I think that I can help you achieve what you want to achieve, then I'll work with you and I'll help you achieve it.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. So touching on this then, I'm pretty sure that there'll be people out there. Well, I know there is, because like I started off saying at the beginning of this episode, I think every tradesperson on planet at some points thought of in getting into property. So for those people that don't know where to start, what's the best piece of advice that you could give them if they are wanting to get into property? Because it can be a minefield. So what's the best advice?
For me, massive mindset, education. And that doesn't even need to be paid for education. There's loads of free stuff out there on the internet, YouTube, wherever. So just follow some property people. These, the genuine people are actually doing some genuine deals and good deals. I follow loads of people. Like I said, I reach out to people. People do help me. I do help people as well. Last night even, I probably had 5-6 messages back and forth with somebody. People will help people. The genuine people who are doing the genuine stuff will help you. Obviously, there's a limit. If someone keeps coming back and forth to me every 2 minutes, I won't go on for days. But, I will help people if they've got the odd question or something. But there's loads of free education out there. So, follow people doing what you want to do. Get your mindset right and just go for it.
And what about setting up like different companies? Because are you that many different contrasting things? Or you need to set up you need to buy a property in your for you personally, or you need to buy a business through a limited company, or set up another limited company and then put all the properties through a separate limited company. Because that's the starting point, I guess, for most people. So what would you advise?
So for me, it depends on obviously where, what the end goal is. So obviously, you set up a limited company, you're going to have some tax implications, some accountancy fees. But if you're wanting to scale, you need to be setting up that limited company. I've got some in my personal name still, which now I kick myself, but they're the early ones, but I get taxed heavily on them. So we're getting taxed obviously on the full rent. Section 24, I won't go fully into it, but the one property I am buying now that I've got in legals, I'm getting it at a good price because that person's bought it in the wrong company structure. So he now needs to exit that. So I'm buying it at a good price because he's set the company, he's bought it in his trading company rather than an actual property company. So he's getting taxed massive on it. So he needs to exit that, that is, one of the ways we buy our properties at a good rate. Obviously, we're solving a problem that people have and we can move quick on it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Let's bring it back to the electrical business, because a lot of what we've just been going through is about the property side, the quickest, easiest, risk-free way of making money for you. But you've still got your electrical business, haven't you? Albeit it's done at your pace, at your rate and level, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
100%.
let's just go back to that then. Just tell us a bit more about what it is you're still doing on electrical side.
So we still obviously we do his homeworks on there. We do works for us other investors as well, and we also do work for some main contractors. I am just selective in who I do work for. I pick and choose, and people might reach out to me to quote a job. I did probably 3-4 weeks ago where someone chasing me to a quote. I just picked the phone up, said, obviously no offence or anything, but we'll be declining to quote this. We're on a decent sized job at the minute. I've just picked an order up last week, I think 40,000. So, so I've got a couple of guys working for me now, and then we subcontract the rest out. But I am selective in the type of job I do, who I work with, and I'm not scared to say no to people. That's the ultimate, going back to the advice I give anyone who wants to start and scale a contracting business is, don't be scared to say no. It's got to be right for you. If it's not right, then there's no point doing it. But yes, I'm selecting what I do. We, turnover. I say turnover's gone down massive. We probably still turn over a few 100,000, but to where we was, it's significantly less. We pick and choose as jobs.
And do you know what? I think that's the ultimate goal for everyone, isn't it? If they can get to a point where they've got a business that's the bread and butter, that's making them money, they've got the long-term investments, you've got future generational wealth for your family tied up in that 5.6 million, and no doubt that'll be going up anyway in value. But to have a business as well where you can just pick and choose, and you've got the right team and have that just ticking over in background, that's where we all need to be. But, I'm just thinking back to how we started this, back in 2006, you and a mate setting up, doing it yourself. You made all the classic mistakes that I see everybody else making in scaling the businesses, winging it. It costs you, but the learnings that you've taken away from that, and then joining in a circle to add a bit more extra clout to it, where you've got to now is like nothing short of remarkable. I think you've done incredibly well. There'll be a lot of people out there thinking, flipping heck, I wish I could get to that point. So with that in mind then, Liam, if there's somebody watching this now or listening to it now and they want to reach out to you, right, for whether that's just some advice on the electrical side or just running a trades business, or actually if they're interested in speaking to you about the property development side, what's the best way of being able to contact you?
Probably the best way is on my Instagram or my Facebook. Instagram's probably best for me. So my Instagram's Liam Stone Property. So if anyone wants to reach out, drop me a message on Instagram, Liam Stone Property.
Amazing. Thank you, Liam. Well, listen, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation and seeing your growth and your journey over all these years. And it just goes to prove that, sometimes we do get setbacks, don't we?
Yeah.
That are outside of our control, that's going to knock us duck and knock us off course. But realigning yourself back like you've done just goes to prove that if you stay at it and you stay true to yourself, we can always achieve what we set out to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. Failure's not final, is it? It's a learning curve.
Absolutely. Practice shots at success. That's all they are.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Liam, I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I think lots of people are going to get much value from this episode. So I'll catch up with you very soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg.
Well, what a remarkable journey Liam's been on since setting up in 2006. And I think the pivotal moment here for Liam is when he joined my inner circle and he learned how to build, grow, and scale a real business, understanding what is the quickest, easiest, risk-free way of making money. Since then, as we've heard from Liam, he's gone on, he's built his property portfolio, and now he's built generational wealth for himself and his family. So if you're sat there thinking, Craig, I've made some of them classic mistakes that Liam's made, and I don't want to make them moving forward, please consider clicking the link in and around the show notes and description of this episode and applying to join me on my next Inner Circle marketing and business coaching program. So thanks for joining us on this week's episode, and I look forward to meeting you all at the top. Thank you.